Yo, what's up, y'all? It's your man B. I am the brand once again. Just wanted to rap to y'all real quick. Wanted to rap to the Kangs and the Queens and the Afrocentric doubters real quick. Pretty much I wanted to ask this question. I saw in a thread earlier that showed this picture. And I was asking, if I can find, if anybody can show me a culture outside of Africa that have a tradition in wearing their hair or wigs in this manner. Boom. I mean, it was a simple question, and this was for the Kangs and the Queens and the Afrocentric doubters and stuff like that. And, they really couldn't answer the question. They really couldn't show me any examples. Even after I showed them examples like this, and like this, from people from various places within Africa, but they could not show me examples like that outside of Africa. What they did show me, were reaches, of course, but what they did show me was like Vikings and Greeks and stuff like that, right? So, of course, we know Vikings, they had the locks and they had the braids and stuff like that. Of course, we see that. We know that. But that isn't what I was talking about. And that is not what a tradition of what I just showed. You know what I'm saying? What we just showed were micro braids, micro twists, or micro dreads. You know what I'm saying? I want to see that within a culture outside of Africa. That's not what you're showing. When you showing me big goofy, Euro locks and Euro braids is not what I'm trying to see. So, in doing that, they started deflecting off of the point and started going to genetics, where we can touch on that subject a little later. And they started talking about other non-issues, when it came to showing the cultural retention and the cultural transmission of people wearing these micro type of braids. Now, we know that all throughout Africa, we can find these micro type of braids, even in the African diaspora, from where, people like myself, African Americans, come from. That's not to say that African Americans are directly descendants from Egypt. No, that's just saying that we are connected to Africa, and it shows in our cultural retention and the cultural transmission, and is in our blood, pretty much. We have a culture of doing these micro braids in various styles. You feel me? And in that culture, we have people who are professions in this culture and people who just do it on the side, in the family. You can find it everywhere. I asked, simple questions, since they couldn't answer that one. If they can tell me, any local people, local Caucasians or white folks, who could do this hair. If they can name 3, none of them can name anybody. I asked if they could name 5 salons that they can go to in their local area that have this tradition or that can do this type of hair. None of them can answer. I asked if they can name 1 person that they know who could make a wig in this manner. None of them could answer. So, I'm just saying, like, this shows that it's not within that culture. It's within the African diaspora, but it's not within the outside culture in that manner. That goes for afros as well. Afros, picks, and all that stuff. Here we go. Afros, picks, and then Egyptian picks. Like, come on now. This is what I'm talking about. But cultural transmission definitely plays a role, because when you look at European hairstyles and stuff like that, you'll see the same type of hairstyles from ancient Europe on up to, you know, today's Europe, in various ways, in various innovative ways as well. You know what I'm saying? You will see it. I mean, just like you'll see locks in the same way among different European people, but you're not going to see it in the way, in the style of what I just showed you. You know what I'm saying? And that's the whole thing. We have to, you know, recognize this and understand this when it comes to our cultural differences, you know, especially the broader cultural differences that we have. You feel me? That, you know, our people within our respective continents gained over the centuries, over the years, over the millennia. But I mean, is another example, periwigs. You know, periwigs, you see those deriving around in the 16th century, you know, I think with Louis or something like Louis, it maybe the 17th century, sometime around that time. But the French, you know, started it, and then it became a big thing within Europe, and it's still going on to this day in a, you know, judicial setting and places like that. Or, you know, we see Greek fraternities to this day. You know, we see the use of Latin to this day. These are cultures that were indigenous to Europe that we use, you know, and that Americans took with them when they colonized America. You know, that's cultural transmission, cultural retention. We have to recognize that it's a difference between, you know, practices that were adopted through conquest, and, you know, practices that are indigenous to the people. You feel me? Because you'll definitely find traditions that you can in Africa that you can find in Europe, like Christianity, what else? Judea, you know, Abrahamic religions and stuff like that. However, that was pressed upon a lot of African people, so it's not indigenous to them. But if you were to look at a lot of the indigenous spiritual systems, then you'll find a great relationship between them, from Egypt to West Africa, from Egyptians to the Dogon. So that's what we're saying, you know. Same thing with the braids. Another prime example with braids. You know, braids are looked at in a lot of Southern European countries and Middle Eastern countries as something that prostitutes wear. Why? Because a lot of them are steeped in orthodoxy. So in that case, they are going to look at things through a biblical perspective, or internalize it through a biblical perspective, and, you know, look at the world in that manner. So therefore, a lot of them, even that's one reason why you don't see braids like that in Southern Europe or the Middle East among women, because it's associated with paganism and it's associated with prostitution. You know what I'm saying? So it says it in Timothy, or one of the Bible verses, women shouldn't braid their hair. So, you know, we got to understand these different aspects of culture, and you know, take it into consideration. But, you know, I'm not going to wrap y'all up too much longer. You know, it's your man B. I am the brand, and I'm out. Peace.